Now we'll be taking an example from the textbook, and this pedigree chart will represent a dominant trait for widow's peak and no widow's peak. Capital A will represent widow's peak, and lowercase a will represent no widow's peak. Capital A being dominant for widow's peak. So first you start off with your first generation, which will be the grandparents. You have the male, which is affected, and he'll be a heterozygous widow's peak, and the female will be a recessive with no widow's peak. For the second set family, the other grandparents, you'll have a male which is not affected with the widow's peak, and a female which is affected. Okay? Okay, so from there they'll mate, which these lines represent the mating, and they'll produce an offspring. The first set of grandparents will produce 4 kids, and 1 will be a girl and the other 4 will be boys. Now you draw squares to represent the males and a circle to represent the female. In this example, the female of the offsprings will be affected, and so will the last male, meaning that this will be a capital A, capital A, and these 2 will be lowercase a's. For this side, you'll have only 2 kids, which is a female and a male, and they'll be siblings too. For this scenario, only the female will be affected. Now this will be our generation, our second generation of widow's peak as a dominant trait. Now if your affected male from the first family and affected female from your second family were to mate and produce an offspring, and for example have 2 kids, which could both be females, only 1 would be affected with the widow's peak, while the other one would be unaffected. And so she could either have. Okay, as I was saying, if these 2 were to mate and produce an offspring, and for example have 2 daughters, 1 will be affected, and she can either be a homozygous dominant or a heterozygous dominant. Either way, she'll receive the widow peak. Whereas the second child will be with a smooth hairline, no widow's peak. Here another example from the textbook, and this will represent a recessive trait in the pedigree chart. We start with a unattached earlobe and an attached earlobe. Capital F being unattached and lowercase being attached. So for your first generation, you have the grandparents. You have a male and a female that mate. Both do not have the trait. And for your second set of grandparents, you have a male and a female that mate. And here you have a recessive homozygous male that's affected with the trait we're looking for. And the female does not have the trait. Now let's say they both produce offsprings. Okay. Here, these 2 will have 4 offsprings. Okay, 4 offsprings. And 3 will be male again. And 1 will be female. Now let's say again the female is not affected, but these 2 males are. Okay? And for this set of grandparents, you'll have 2 kids, 2 females again. And this female will be affected. Now let's say these 2 offsprings mate together and they produce an offspring, again, which is 2 females. Okay? Both being unaffected, their offspring will be affected with the trait we're looking for, though, even though the parents weren't, because one of the grandparents were. This is also an example of an autosomal trait.
Looking at a recessive genetic disorder, such as cystic fibrosis. In this case, we're going to let capital A represent not having the disease, which is dominant in this case, and the recessive A, the lowercase a, is going to be having the trait in you, which is cystic fibrosis. So in this case, the female is affected and is homozygous recessive, which is the only case in which the person would be affected. So they mate and produce 2 offsprings that are not affected because they're heterozygous. And they both mate again, those offsprings, and produce another 3 offsprings that are all heterozygous, showing that they are, again, not affected. Then this specific male mates with another female that's also heterozygous and produce 3 offsprings. And in this case, it's an equal chance of being heterozygous or homozygous dominant with dominant A. But in this case, we have 2 homozygous that are recessive, meaning that they're affected with this trait, similar to in generation 1 where the female was affected. Okay, so now we're going to look at a sex-linked pedigree chart that is dealing with the Y chromosome. And in this case, we have a male and a female, and the male is affected with a prostate cancer. And they have 4 kids, and one of the male is affected. That male mates with a female and has an offspring that are both male, but only one of them is affected. And in this case, a non-affected male mates with a non-affected female. And they also have an affected offspring.